Drake Maye is a must start in week one. We'll tell you why next.
You are Locked On Dynasty Football, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. And today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. He is Michael Fabiano. And on today's show, we're telling you the players that you need to start and sit in your dynasty leagues. But Fabs, real quick before we start, nice little Randall Cunningham jersey on the first day of football season.
Yeah. Randall Cunningham is the quarterback who I had in the first league I ever won, and it was the first league I ever played. Now, he didn't play for the Eagles at that point. He played for the Vikings. If you remember 98, Brad Johnson got hurt. He came in and was amazing. But I've always loved Randall Cunningham, and it's just a happy accident that his former team, the Eagles, happened to be playing a stupid team led by a stupid owner tonight in our beloved, but, well, whatever, Dallas Cowboys.
And I'm wearing an Antonio Bryant jersey from the early 2000s for my childhood. Because I got a feeling we're entering the early 2000 Dallas Cowboys era.
God. Oh.
Yeah, I know. That's all right. All right, let's talk about some guys that we are starting and sitting in our dynasty leagues this week. And I want to start with some players that we're starting at the quarterback position. You love Drake Maye this week. Tell us why.
Right. And I would tell people, don't get cute. Okay, like you have the players who you're going to start, right? Your high-end guys. But Drake Maye, if you don't have like that high-end elite type of quarterback one, Drake Maye is a really good play. You guys know that I've been talking about him as one of my favorite breakout quarterbacks this season. And I have him ranked as a low-end starter this week against Las Vegas. I mean, besides Max Crosby, I mean, what do they really have, right? On the defensive side of the football. And this defense also allowed nearly 18 points per game to quarterbacks last year. I get it. It was last year. It's all the data we have, folks, right? I mean, for the first 4 weeks, we're going to go to school just as much as you are. Another reason why I like Maye is, I like to look at the player props and see sort of, who's where. If you look at the player props over at FanDuel, 31-ish pass attempts for Drake Maye, 27.5 rushing yards. And so you guys know I love rushing quarterbacks. It's part of the reason why I love Drake Maye. So the matchup is there. I think he's going to give you 30-plus rushing yards this week. So if you don't have that high-end elite type of quarterback, I do like Drake Maye as a starter.
I think this Raiders defense stinks. You look at the secondary that they're going to be playing with, and it's rough. Even some of the guys that they are expecting to start are dealing with hamstring injuries. The linebacker play is arguably the worst in the league. I think this is a great call. New England's at home. I think with Josh McDaniels, we know he's a proven offensive coordinator. I don't think it's going to be huge numbers, but if you don't want to start, like, for example, I've got Caleb Williams in basically every league. I'm a little bit nervous about playing him against Minnesota this week. Like that, I would just prefer Drake Maye if you have both of those guys on your team. I think Maye is a low-end QB1 who can maybe give you some even better numbers than that.
Yeah, no doubt about that. One of the quarterbacks that I feel like is going to join the list of players that you draft late in a redraft or drafted last year in Dynasty, who's really going to help you in season 2. Like we see that all the time, a second-year quarterback come out and put up very good numbers. And I think that's going to be one of the quarterbacks. I think there's a couple, but one of them will be Drake Maye this season.
All right, so which quarterback are you benching in week 1?
I don't love Justin Fields this week, and I know it's a revenge game against the Steelers. I guess, right? He played for him last year. But I like Fields for the duration of the season. So don't get me wrong. I do like him, and I have him in several leagues. But this is a bad matchup. Okay, Pittsburgh on paper has one of, if not the most talented defenses in the entire league, especially after the moves they made in the offseason, right? And if you look last season at the 2 games they played against Lamar Jackson, who is a mobile rushing type quarterback, 68 yards total and no touchdowns on the ground. So they know how to stop mobile quarterbacks. And oh, by the way, Fields was on the team last year. So like they might have a little insight into how to stop him. Okay. Also, this is a game with the lowest total of the week at 37.5. So Vegas does not think this is going to be a high scoring game. And that's why, as much as I like Justin Fields from a fantasy perspective this season, I don't think the Jets are going to win a lot of games, but I don't like him this week against Pittsburgh. It's a very bad matchup. And when I see a total that low, I kind of shy away from playing some of the ancillary players who aren't the superstars in a game.
Yeah, this is just a bad matchup for Justin Fields all the way around. We should mention Elijah Vera Tucker, arguably the Jets' best offensive lineman.
A bad loss.
Yep, tore his triceps on Tuesday. He's going to be out for the season. Now, they do have a little bit of depth, so it's not like you're going and playing absolute scrubs. I think it's going to be Josh Myers, who's either playing center or right guard. Joe Tippmann will play the other spot. But again, against Pittsburgh's defensive line, which is one of the best in the league, you've got a rookie right tackle in Armand Membu, who's going to need help blocking TJ Watt. Plus, they've got corners. I think Jalen Ramsey's going to be matching up with Garrett Wilson one-on-one. There's a chance, Fabs. Like, I could see this game where Fields has to throw the ball a lot late in the fourth quarter, and that's how he kind of salvages some of his fantasy value. But you're banking on like garbage time, and you don't want to do that when you're starting a quarterback in week one. I would look elsewhere this week.
Yeah, there's a lot of good options out there, and again, Justin Fields is probably not on many teams as a QB1, although in some leagues, maybe people did go out and do that. And again, I think for the duration of the season, from a fantasy perspective, he'll be fine. But he is not a quarterback like Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. He is subject to the matchups. And this week's matchup is just not good.
Real quick, before we move on, Garrett Wilson, I've got him in a bunch of leagues because of you. Is he somebody that you're thinking about benching this week because the total is so low and it's a really tough matchup?
I'd have to be deep at wide receiver to bench him. I don't love him. I can promise you that I don't love him, but I am probably not going to bench him.
I think I will, because my guess is that they're going to just load up.
Who do you play over him? What's the cliff? What's the point where, are you playing Emeka Egbuka over him or Ricky Pearsall over him?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Well, and I have him in a couple leagues where you can only start 3 receivers. Like, I'm playing Xavier Worthy over Garrett Wilson this week.
I mean, honestly,
this is one of my fears with Garrett Wilson, just like this year in fantasy leagues and dynasty leagues, is we love the talent, but there's a chance this offense could be one of the worst in the league. And yeah, you're banking on targets, but if the target quality isn't very good, then I don't know how productive he's going to be. So I'm sitting basically every single Jet, including Breece Hall, who we are going to get to next. It's almost the weekend. It's time to look back to crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered the most, and let's break it down. We're going to go to college football from last week. Garrett Nussmeier from LSU. I thought he was unbelievable. He was accurate. He was calm in the pocket. He's the kind of guy that we are going to be looking out for in our dynasty leagues coming up next year, because I won't be surprised if he ends up being the #1 pick. I thought he showed all of the tools and traits that you want from a franchise passer. And when the pressure was on, I thought he delivered. There was no hesitation, no delay. And if you've been watching him over the last 2 years, you can see that this isn't a fluke. This is just how he plays. Garrett Nussmeier, he is officially on a streak. And just like Nussmeier delivered for the LSU Tigers, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. With DoorDash streaks, you save on every Saturday order. Stack it up all season, you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday and keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through November 18th. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Phelps, let's talk about some running backs that we are starting and sitting in week one. Let's actually start with some sits, because let's continue this Jets thing. Breece Hall, are you putting him in your lineup this week?
Yes, but I would temper expectations. And if I have any kind of depth, I might look to keep him on the sidelines. Just the matchup's bad. I mean, we talked about it with Justin Fields. Pittsburgh's defense last year, they allowed just 4 rushing touchdowns and the 10th fewest points to running backs on the road. Okay, so when you look at this matchup on paper, not great. We've also heard, of course, that there has been talk of Hall splitting work with Braylon Allen and to a degree Isaiah Davis. And so there's just a lot of question marks about the Jets offense. We're going to go to school a lot this week when it comes to some of the backfield situations and how offensive coordinators and head coaches are going to use these guys in these rotations. Is the whole Breece Hall in a rotation just a myth and he's going to be the featured back, or is it going to be 60-40? Is it going to be 60-30-10? Like, we're going to find these things out this week. And there's just a lot of question marks about Breece Hall, not only the matchup, but also the usage. And if the Jets are getting beat in this game, and remember, Aaron Rodgers is going against the Jets. That's a revenge game as well. Had to point that out, both quarterbers, right?
I mean, can it be a revenge game? Hold on. Is it really a revenge game if you played one season?
That's it. You're still no. He played 2 seasons for him. He just was hurt one of them.
Well,
so all I'm saying is that it's a revenge game. If the Steelers are ahead in this game, then the Jets might have to go away from the run. Now, Breece Hall could be utilized in the passing game as well. We've seen that in the past. He's probably a flex this week, unless you have depth at running back. And I would really, again, temper those expectations.
I'm not playing him in any of the leagues that I have Breece Hall in, because we even had Mike Tomlin come out and say that we're going to load up to stop the run. Like, he's telling you that they're going to put like 8-9 guys in the box. They're going to run blitz. And when Pittsburgh wants to stop the run, they do a really good job of doing that. And I just don't think Justin Fields with this receiving core is going to be able to beat them through the air enough. Like, I just see this being a really bad day for the Jets offense. And I would love to eat crow and be wrong about this. I just don't see it happening. And we have a pretty strong track record of Mike Tomlin coming out early in the season and their defense absolutely dominating. They're healthy on that side of the ball. I would worry about Pittsburgh more later in the year with this older defense, but not early in the season. This is where you want to avoid the Steelers as much as possible.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, again, we've talked about it. I think the only player that I would start from the Jets this week is Garrett Wilson, and I wouldn't have a lot of confidence in him. And listen, guys, it's 1 week. There are going to be much better matchups down the road for the Jets and for Breece Hall and for Justin Fields, et cetera. But this just is a shaky week for the men in green from a fantasy perspective.
You do say that it gets easier, but they do play like the Bills next week. And this is kind of the fear with them. They play the Broncos in a couple of weeks. Like, their schedule's pretty hard. And if this Jets team gets off to a 0-3, 1-4 start, that's what I wonder. Like, could we see a move? Because what's the point in running Breece Hall the last year of his contract if you're on a bad team? I don't know. This is why I've been predicting.
Maybe you're trying to showcase him for a trade in season.
I honestly feel very confident that's probably going to happen. I just don't see this Jets team being very good. I see them getting out to at least an 0-2 start, but we'll see. All right, let's talk about some running backs who you are starting. Who are you putting into your lineup?
I love Chuba Hubbard this week against the Jaguars. Hubbard broke out. He was tied for 14th in fantasy points among running backs last year, but he actually averaged over 16 points per game. He was really good. And the matchup's very favorable against the Jaguars. I mean, they were terrible against running backs last year. I don't know that they did much during the offseason to make grand improvements there as well. And, I get it. Rico Dowdle's there, but I still think that this is going to end up being a featured situation for Hubbard, where Dowdle's more of a backup type of guy. Hubbard should get the majority of the carries out of the backfield. The Panthers offense is going to be very interesting, because Bryce Young was very good at the end of last year, and they bring in Ted McMillan, and now you're kind of set, right? I mean, obviously Jalen Coker's on injured reserve. He's going to miss the first month of the season, but this Panthers offense could be somewhat interesting. And unless the Jaguars defense steps up, which it rarely did last year, I think this is going to end up being a nice week for Chuba Hubbard from a fantasy perspective.
I kind of like this Panthers offense this year a little bit. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if we get a bunch of these games where the Panthers are scoring like in the upper 30s. And honestly, we saw it in the second half of last year. Like, once Bryce Young came back, this offense was just good. And I think they've got one of the better offensive lines in the league. I don't trust this Jacksonville defense at all. I love Chuba Hubbard this week. I think he's a borderline top 10 running back. I honestly do.
Again, get him in your lineup. Like, that's a player that, if you have to choose between like Breece Hall and Chuba Hubbard, then it's a Chuba Hubbard win all day long.
I have two other running backs that I want to ask you about before we move on. First of all, Javonte Williams, who plays tonight for our Dallas Cowboys. I know you're wearing a Philadelphia jersey.
It's a Randall Cunningham jersey. I like the Kelly Green.
Is Javonte Williams worth a flex start? He is the Cowboys starting running back. He did not play at all in the preseason, whereas Miles Sanders and Jaden Blue did. I know this is Philadelphia, but are you playing him in this week as a flex play at all?
Desperation. This game will probably play out in a way that's not going to be very favorable for Cowboys fans. If the Cowboys are behind, they're going to completely abandon Javonte Williams in the run game. And so I get it. I mean, there are some people out there who think that Javonte Williams is underrated in drafts, and maybe ultimately that will be true because he wasn't going until very late. But the bottom line for me here is that I just don't know what that Cowboys game, run game is going to look like. And if I had to guess, I'm guessing it's probably not going to be very good. And if he is Rico Dowdle from last year, then that's a massive win from a fantasy perspective. But you'd have to be desperate. You really would. I mean, and plus on a Thursday, one thing that I hate about Thursdays is when you play a shaky guy, Marcus, and then he stinks and you're sitting and looking at that 6-point performance, like all the way through Sunday. And you're like, damn it, why did I start that guy? So my guess is that people probably have better alternatives than Javonte Williams, but I mean, he is a desperation flex at best. That Eagles crowd is going to be psyched. They're going to unveil the banner. Philadelphia is already a really hard place to play football games. Imagine what it's going to be like tonight. Those Eagles fans are going to be lit up. Let's just put it that way. It's not going to be a friendly environment. And I don't know that Javonte Williams is going to have a lot of success unless he gets into the end zone. I would not expect a big game.
Even then, just using some of the props from our friends at FanDuel, like Javonte Williams' number of carries is set at like 8.5. I could totally see him going over and getting like 11 carries for 44 yards. And then you're banking on a touchdown. And let's say he scores a touchdown, 10 points. Like that's probably like kind of the ceiling we're looking at here.
And
it's just not worth the risk.
Right, exactly. And that's another thing. I mentioned Drake Maye's prop at FanDuel, and we just talked about Javonte Williams' carries prop. Go and use that information. Now, I'm going to put that stuff in Stardom and sit him over at Sports Illustrated, and I'm going to talk to you guys about it on a weekly basis during the course of the season. Vegas knows, okay? Vegas knows. Do you guys remember the photo I posted when I was in Las Vegas a few weeks ago of the Micah Parsons Cowboys jersey that was 30% off? This was before the talk started heating up with Green Bay. Vegas knows. So make sure you're using that information to your advantage.
Yeah, go check out FanDuel. They have all the lines, all the props ahead of week one. One more running back, Najee Harris. Jim Harbaugh said that Najee Harris, not only is he going to play in week one against the Chiefs, he's going to start. Are you starting him in your fantasy lineup?
Why are you doing this to us, Harbaugh? I mean, come on. He didn't play in the entire preseason, and now he's going to start? Is this just like, hey, you're the veteran, you're going to start? You've got a workhorse beast in Omarion Hampton, and you're going to play games? Okay, listen, Harbaugh knows a lot about football, more than I do, certainly. But am I starting Najee Harris, especially against the Chiefs? No. Would I still rather play Omarion Hampton? Yes. Do I have Omarion Hampton ranked way ahead of Najee Harris this week? Yes. Ultimately, am I going to be wrong? I don't know. Because remember, and we've talked about this with these unofficial depth charts where Trevion Henderson is third in New England and Bill Krosky-Merritt is fourth in Washington. What does it really matter? Honestly, I don't know. So starting and getting the majority of the touches are two different things, Marcus.
All right, let's talk about the 49ers wide receiver that you must have in your fantasy lineups this week. We will get to that next. This episode is brought to you by Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. They follow what moves them every time they drive. And that's what makes Mazda stand out. They go beyond safety, style, and performance to deliver a driving experience that feels alive in every detail. Mazda offers more than safety. It's won more 2025 IHS Top Safety Pick awards than anyone else. And as an athlete focuses on every detail, Mazda does the same, from metallic accents to hand-stitched Napa leather. It's the small details that make big plays. And just like there's more to every player, there's more to every Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here. We finally made it, And FanDuel is making sure that you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits every way that I bet. Like, I love the futures market. Even after tonight's game, I'm going to go around and see which division winners I'm going to pick, who I think is going to win the Super Bowl, who's going to win the MVP award, and it's all available on FanDuel. Plus, it's quick, it's easy, and it's the best way to add a little bit more energy to your Thursday nights. Now that we've got football back Friday with Chiefs Chargers, and then, of course, on Sundays. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That is FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. It's not too late to binge every Locked On division preview. Be the most informed NFL fan in an 8-episode series talking about every division winner, every breakout star, and Super Bowl contender. Find the link in the description to the Locked On NFL playlist on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, Fabs, let's talk about some receivers for the 49ers. Let's start with Ricky Pearsall. Are you starting him this week?
Yeah, I am. He was one of, I think, probably our favorite sleepers, going into this season. I think he's a flex starter against Seattle. The Niners right now, I mean, their pass attack is kind of a mess, right? Brandon Ayuk's not going to play. Now, Juwan Jennings did, I guess, I don't know if it was an extension, Marcus, or if there's just more money now involved in terms of the rest of his deal with the Niners, but he's expected to play. But how much? I don't know. I mean, he didn't do anything during camp.
Calf injury. They finally got
exactly. Right.
Cash.
That's why I didn't bring it up, because like you said, these kind of injuries typically heal up with money. Yeah. So, George Kittle obviously is going to be very heavily targeted in this game. But until that Niners passing game is whole, and that's not going to happen until maybe, week 6, week 7, I like Pearsall as maybe a weekly starter. And Brock Purdy, if you look at the numbers that he posted last year, over 42 combined fantasy points in 2 games against Seattle, including a 24-point performance in Seattle. So Purdy's a good play, and Pearsall's a good play as well.
I don't know what to think about the Seattle defense, because on paper, it looks like it's improved. I love Mike McDonald. I think he's one of the best defensive minds in the league. But there's still some question marks in the back end. But I agree. Pearsall is somebody that I'm starting. Jennings, I think, is a flex play probably this week.
I mean, I have to get more information in terms of, like, is there going to be a snap count? Is he going to be, is he going to play a full complement? I don't know. I will say this, though. In the leagues where you landed Jennings and you probably got him a little bit later than maybe you should have, you got to be feeling pretty good right now.
No,
because there is a world where he is the leading wide receiver in San Francisco this season in terms of targets.
Well, we saw last year, there was a stretch where he was second in the NFL in receiving yards. Like, he was phenomenal to start the season.
Yep.
And he got a little bit banged up. But all we know is Jennings, if you got him late in your draft, you traded for him in your dynasty leagues, you're feeling great about the long-term outlook here.
Yeah.
All right. Which receiver are you benching in week 1?
A receiver whose stock actually had started to rise a little bit, right? I mean, towards the end of the preseason, and that's Calvin Ridley, because he's the number 1 target, and he actually has a quarterback that people have more faith in Cam Ward, rather than, Will Levis or some other curtain jerker. But I mean, Patrick Surtain, dude. I mean, like, I don't care who you are. You could be CeeDee Lamb or Justin Jefferson, and if you're facing Patrick Surtain, not that you would ever sit those guys, but you're like, maybe I need to downgrade my expectations this week. And again, I'll use some stats from last year. I get it. It was last year, but still, this defense included Surtain last year. They allowed just 4 touchdown catches to perimeter receivers in Denver and only 18 points per game at the position overall when they're playing in Mile High. So it's not a great matchup. I think this is going to be a low scoring game. I don't love Cam Ward. Really, the only Titan that I would start this week with any confidence is Tony Pollard. And it's not even about the matchup. It's just about volume.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, yes, Fabs, what's the matchup? And, okay, I mean, those are important. There's no question about that. But volume is right there too. And so even though the matchup's not great, remember, Tyjae Spears is out for the first 4 weeks. So Pollard should get 15 to 18 touches in this game, I think on the low end. And Tennessee's going to want to try and keep the ball, time of possession, win that battle for their young quarterback. But in the passing game, it's really hard to like anybody in Tennessee this week playing in Denver.
And what makes me even a little bit more nervous is Dan Moore, their prized signing in free agency. He's dealing with an injury right now, did not practice on Wednesday. His status is up in the air. And this is one of the best defensive lines in the league in Denver. I could just see Cam Ward being harassed all day. This is a tough matchup. It's a really tough spot for a rookie quarterback. It's a tough spot for any quarterback. Playing against the Broncos early in the season. I'm with you. I think if you can swing it, bench Calvin Ridley. It's again just a really, really tough matchup. Anybody else you want to mention here before we head out?
Yeah, in terms of the starting wide receivers, Emeka Egbuka is a guy that I really like in what's going to be a high-scoring game. The total's very high on FanDuel in that game against Atlanta, so I would certainly have him in your lineup. And again, I just want to preface and just say, listen, folks, I understand that you read about matchups and all this kind of thing, but it's week 1. Me and Marcus, we got to go to school, man. I'm going to be out there with my number 2 pencil. You remember those? Taking notes, because a defense that might have been really good against a position last year might be really bad this season. Like, things change. Look at the Cowboys with that. Oh my God, I don't even want to talk about it. But we're all going to school, so don't get too cute. Okay, like I don't think starting Ricky Pearsall is cute, or Emeka Egbuka. I don't think that's cute.
No.
Okay, because the matchups are favorable and the volume of targets for those 2 players is going to be there. Like I mentioned with Pollard, you're going to play them because of volume. But don't get cute this week. You invested high draft capital or maybe trade capital in acquiring players for your dynasty team. Play those guys this week, okay? And see what happens. Don't get nuts with the matchups. Make sure, even like for me, tight ends, I mean, I got to play the guys that I know.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not playing Mason Taylor this week. You're not playing Elijah Arroyo.
That's the first guy that I thought of. Like that, we love Mason Taylor, but you're not playing him this week.
Exactly.
Just like you're not playing Terrence Ferguson, and you're obviously right.
You're not playing these guys. Although Ted McMillan, I love this week, especially with Kogar. I think he's going to have a very good game against Jacksonville. You got to soak it in, man. Like Travis Hunter. I think Travis Hunter comes with some risk this week, right? I mean, I know he's a starting wide receiver and a backup cornerback. But boy, I mean, playing all those snaps. I know it's week 1, so he's going to be as fresh as he's been. Right, I have him too, Marcus, and I'm going to play him. But there's a little bit of risk involved there, right? There's certainly a little bit of risk. So don't get too nuts. Play your stars where you need to fill holes. Play the matchups and play the volume.
All right, that is it for today's show. We'd like to thank you for making Locked On Dynasty Football your first listen every single day. On tomorrow's show, we'll break down this Cowboys-Eagle game. We'll talk about the biggest performers, the dynasty spin. Be on the lookout for that. Hopefully, we have some happy stuff.
I think we're going to be down 20 at halftime.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll also do some commotion, some players that you should promote from your bench, maybe even your waiver wire into your starting lineup in week 1. I've got a receiver from Carolina that I think you should be playing this week, so make sure you guys tune in for that. Follow Fabs on Twitter at Michael_Fabiano. I'm at Marcus_Mosher. Enjoy the Thursday night game between the Cowboys and the Eagles, and we will see you right back here tomorrow.